Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I am your host, Tricia Carr. Thank you for being here with me today. What a beautiful day I am having, and I hope you are as well. I send you so much love and so much appreciation for joining me on this broadcast, this podcast, or this YouTube channel, however you are joining us. And you can join us in all those different ways. You can also watch on a broadcast window right on my website. Yes, I'm so excited about that. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, but for some reason it excites me very much. My website is triciacarrcharm.com. And if you go to Podcasting Media, that's a place where you can find us live. And also the current episode will be right there displayed. And what else? Well, I have a really awesome project that I have been introducing to you guys, and that is the 2019 Intuitive Intensive that I am collaborating with my amazing luminous friend, Crystal Ann Compton, who is a spiritual teacher and intuitive channel. Do go check out the 2019 Intuitive Intensive. It is a 12-week program, 8 weeks of comprehensive, immersive education, and then 4 weeks of group coaching, a beautiful community. We actually have an early bird price ending today, so if you're listening live, go check it out, learn.lightworkerslab.com/2019II for Intuitive Intensive. Go check it out, register. We start in March. And I also want to mention I would love it if you guys would like, subscribe, share, comment, any way that you want to engage in this program. If you like it, then like it. And also check out my services on my website. I offer intuitive readings and mediumship, counseling, all full boat whenever we work together, and of course the animal communication sessions. So check that out, and the Mystic Arts Academy for the intuitive development classes that I'm doing there. So much stuff going on my website. Go check it out. And I want to say hello to the Lightworkers Lab. That is the online spiritual community that my dear friend Crystal Ann Compton founded, and of which I am a teacher. And I'm there live every single Wednesday, and we do broadcast live right into the Lightworkers Lab. So that's why I'm saying hello to my lab family. It is a beautiful place to be able to express your spirituality. It's a wonderful resource for all kinds of education. And so go check it out. It's on Facebook as a group, the Lightworkers Lab. And without further delay, I am so excited to welcome back onto Charmed Life my dear friend who is, your list is so long. Certified in Reiki, Emotional Freedom Technique, EMF Balancing Technique, Quantum Touch, and Delores Cannon's QHHT. You're a level 3 practitioner of QHHT. And I actually did have a Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique therapy session. Yeah. It's a lot of...
We call it QHHT.
Yeah, QHHT. Well, I want to let them know. Some people are like, what? How many letters are there in this title?
Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique.
Session with you. It's been about... it's been a year and a half, I think.
Really?
Oh my gosh, but it's it's powerful. I'm still living, because I remember it was in June. It was in June, but I think it was not this past summer. It was a year ago, June.
Was it in the Valley here or in Eagle Rock?
Valley.
Okay, so it can be more than a year. So about a year.
Yeah, so about I did, but it was in June. I'm going to move your mic just a little bit closer. So anyway, this is Jeroen de Wit. Now, did I say it pretty well?
Beautifully, yes. We were practicing.
We're practicing, yeah.
It's a weird name here, I know.
No, it's a beautiful name. It's beautiful. I just want to make sure that I honor it. And I think that's so important, our names are very important to us.
They are, yeah. I teach people how to say it. I don't say, my name is, you can just say Jerry or...
And I'm always that way when someone is like, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, tell me what your mama calls you. How does she say it? Because that's what I want to try to do.
Thank you.
My pleasure. But it is, the work you do is so powerful. And I mean, in addition to all of those certifications that I mentioned, you do intuitive readings, energy healing. Tell us a little bit more about the work you've been doing lately. I don't know how long it's been since you've been on, but probably about 10 months. Yeah. So
time goes so fast.
I think it's been. I didn't check it. I'm just feeling the timeline right now.
So what I do? You mean?
Sure, yeah, or what you've been up to, what you're
so the bulk of my work is QHHT, so Delores Cannon's Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. That's what I do almost every day, except for Mondays and Tuesdays. And then I do energy healings. And I'm not so confident with my intuitive reading ability.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me. But that just mean you don't really, it's not your favorite thing to do, and that's fine.
It's just because my way of perceiving things is more through feeling. So,
sure.
And I'm barely coming out of a place where I took other people's feelings personally. So it's still sort of wading through the ocean of all these feelings hitting me and then figuring out what is what. But yeah, I've trained in Akashic Records reading, and when I do energy healings, I do get intuitive information, so images or feelings.
Yeah, definitely. In my session, you do intuitive counseling as well. I mean, you do the counseling before the actual session, and I mean that's completely holding space, and it's just not necessarily like maybe you're thinking of like I don't like to do mediumship or something like that because you would identify with the spirit's energy, and I totally get that. It's a kind of translating into something that's speech that you don't hold on to.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you do, like, I'm amazed by what you do. Like, you
Oh
have
my gosh, that's
language and words and names. That's amazing. Like,
Oh.
So that was I was talking about. I don't do that. Yeah.
Okay, but everything that you do is really in that space. The session that we had was so powerful, and it's kind of amazing to me that you do it 5 days a week because it's intense.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And talk about the distinction, and I know that it is a specific technique, the QHHT. How is it? Can you talk about the distinction between the QHHT and the Akashic record readings, because they're both kind of, I mean, in similar spaces?
It is similar, yeah. I would say so, yeah. So QHHT helps somebody to get their own answers. So they're not facing a reader and they're telling them about their life, which is very, very powerful as well. But people have their own experience, and it's really guided by we call it the subconscious. It's the higher self.
Yeah.
And this is really the point of QHHT, to create a stronger opening to the higher self so people can get their own answers.
Right.
And I find it very empowering.
So you record the sessions and then folks listen back to them because, when we're in that intuitive space, when we're working with the subconscious, we don't tend to bring it into the conscious as much. It's kind of like dreaming. And
it is.
Yeah.
I must say that like, a lot of people think that QHHT means that the practitioner is going to like snap their fingers and or do something magical, and then you're completely zonked out. And that's not really the case.
Like a chicken or something.
Yes. No, none of that. So actually I use that example with people. Yeah. It is very, very easy. People are usually surprised how easy it is because it's just being relaxed, having your eyes closed, and just tuning in. It's kind of like, I like to compare it to, if you were to be watching TV, like the news is on, and you see that blue crawler at the bottom, the ticker, that's kind of like the higher self. It's always informing our lives. It's always there, like giving you little tidbits of information or guiding you towards certain experiences while we're focused on the big drama of it. And so during a QHHT session, we're kind of just shutting down that big drama and just listening into the information that's coming in.
Yeah.
And it can come through feelings or images or just knowing or thoughts, different ways.
And as it's coming through the sitter, we'll say the client, in feelings, do you help them to articulate them so that it can actually get on the recording and they can experience it later?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what we do. So, usually we start out with our cues being quite visual. And so, but if there's not a lot coming, then we just switch to what are you feeling, or what do you know, what is your hunch or your sense, or even what do you imagine what it is? Because imagination is one of the doorways through which the higher self can talk to us.
Absolutely. The imaginal realm or the imaginal plane is really where we go, is what we're experiencing, which is there all the time.
Yes, and it's powerful because when we imagine, we're in a state of play, just make-believe, and that is very different from the conscious mind that's always trying to analyze and figure things out.
It's more relaxed.
Yes.
Free and more aligned with pure creator energy, I would say.
I would say so too.
Yeah. And so, as you said, that a big fundamental intention is to create a stronger gateway or a stronger path between the communication of the higher self. So, do you think that happens even if just because of the actual process, like you kind of blaze a trail, or is it imperative that the client listen back so they can continue to be in the energy of it, or somewhere in between?
Good question. I think it is helpful to do that because even though people might think that they're aware of themselves and they can remember everything during their process, afterwards they might find that it fades very, very quick. So when I do group regressions as well, I have people write it down right after their process because they think, oh, I'll just remember this, but it'll fade pretty quick. It's very much like a dream state.
Yeah.
So it is helpful to listen to it just because for many different reasons to actually get the guidelines and information that was being shared by the higher self, like go vegan, or don't work out in the gym if you don't like it, but go out in nature. I'm just simple suggestions that are given. So it's helpful to write those down to help your life because that's what it's about. But then also to be in the energy of it. That's also important. So it's more of a a process where the energy percolates through you rather than for the conscious mind to make all the pieces of the puzzle fit or to make it make sense. It's more of an experience. And I noticed this when I had clients come to me after their session and they said, oh, since this session, my chronic backache cleared, or, my life changed completely, or my demeanor completely changed. Without it being, something that they wanted to address during their process, or it wasn't made aware. We weren't made aware of it during this process. So it's more of a place where the higher self comes in and kind of shifts things around or releases stuff that is no longer serving you, and then give you a little upgrade.
Wow. So is it the kind of thing that I know I personally like to get a good reading at least once per year, you know what I mean? Right. And maybe something else like astrological or numerological chart readings as well. Like I kind of like to get that maintenance once per year. Would this be something that might be well served for some people to do about once per year, or maybe more or less than that?
Yes. Once per year is good. Yeah. It can be quite, what's the word? It can really shift things around. So I usually tell people if they want to do this again to give it at least 3 months, to come back after 3 months. But yeah, like an annual checkup, people do that. Yeah, it's very, very helpful. It is kind of a peek underneath the hood of your life to get the metaphysical backstory to what's going on. Wow.
Yeah. I got to say, for you folks, this is something that you do locally in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Yeah. And because it's really involved, I would say. But what's really important about something like this is that you trust the person, because you're in there holding the hand of my psyche, Right. That's a fragile, vulnerable place. Yeah. And so, I just want to honor you, because you were more than a caretaker for me when that's why you're here on this show a few times, which is an honor to me. But that's really amazing, and I just really appreciate it so much. I felt very, really nourished and really nurtured in that experience. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. It is something that I help others to open up to as well. Yeah. Because what I'm seeing in my sessions, the people that I meet, is that our life moves according to a certain pattern. That usually we have sort of diminishing experiences as we grow up. Yes. And then there is sort of a breakdown or a spiritual awakening or a revelation or a bump up in experience and consciousness. And then we're going to use all of that experience that we've gathered and embrace who we are. That's what I support people in. Oh, I love it. And this is what I've been able to do in my own life. I'm 47 years old right now, and I've been on this path since 1999. Lots of it started with lots of self-help. Yeah. Having an emotional, spiritual crisis and propelling me forward into healing myself first. Yeah. Discovering the empowerment and the beauty of it, and in turn wanting to do that for other people. Yes. And then finding out about my own purpose and getting wildly more specific throughout the years. I when I teach my students, meditation or just intuitive ability development, I talk about the workshop. And I liken the workshop is basically your devotional practice is usually what I'm referring to the workshop. Daily, you have your meditation, your prayer, whatever it is that is you making contact with your inner being and with the universe or source energy. You need to make that contact every day. And as a very sensitive person, I think that is really, really important because we need to know what we feel like in order in order to disidentify from others. Right. Yes, exactly. From others that we would pick up the information. And so I think that's what it just reminded me of that is the workshop. I say in our workshop, the reason we are in our workshop every day, if we have upon our hearts to be a helper, a healer, a guide, is that everything we do with others, we must do for ourselves first, which is basically the golden rule. Love others as you love yourself. Right. And so you did your healing journey so you could, that was your workshop. In order to be able to begin to be a little bit further down the path to hold space for someone else to step forward in their own. Right. Yes. Yeah, I think it's really important for people that work with other people to have made an amount of self-inquiry and to know how to navigate your inner world, because I imagine, because I can only say from my perspective, it will give you ease and access to another person's motives. And it's easy to see when I talk to people, many different kinds of people presenting very, very differently. But I know that the motivators behind it are pure. Like even if people express in ways that we would deem, like negative, I know that it's just because they're doing the best that they can.
Absolutely, yes,
and
right.
it's because of their upbringing and the access they have to their own personal light or their own authenticity. That's the level to which they can express the same thing.
Personal light is that makes me think of how in the session with a QHHT session, and I said, is it the very act of blazing a trail, basically? And what I believe probably happens as well is that you bring in more of your own soul light. It actually integrates into the fullness of your experience. So it just the event itself, you walk out of that session a changed person because you've welcomed in more of your own soul light.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of explaining it. Exactly.
Well, I actually am borrowing the word soul light and welcoming in more of your soul light from Steve Nobel, who was on my show. I probably others speak of it that way. But
I
that's
just
how
had a session with him last week.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, that's right, because I mentioned him. That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's not like I mention him every show.
That's funny.
But I guess we kind of, how was that?
It was amazing.
Soul matrix healing is what it's called.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't it really great? All of the work that you do, like you go through, and I actually did two. I don't know if you're going to do a second one, but he says that it's often good to do two to really get through. But you go through and you clearing some contracts, and I mean, it was really amazing.
So much clearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably time for me to do another one with him.
Right. So that does happen during sessions because it's kind of like just like you said, that's where you connect with, and so it starts to sort of go through your personal experience and clean house.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
create more space.
So talk about the group regressions. That sounds really cool. Like you're walking folks through it, and what is that like?
They are such favorite places in my life right now. Because
so much light. Everybody's joining their love and their light together. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many different experiences all together. And sometimes they become platforms for people to embrace more of their own authenticity because they're realizing that they're not the only people in life that have like experiences that surpass the 3D experience, like talking to guides or spirits or even being abducted by aliens or just being more intuitively aware. And so it's so much fun to see people like their light go on.
Right.
And this is done, we have a regression experience. Everybody goes through their own experience and we share. And that gets the discussion going. And it's very, very joyful. I just did one in a private residence last week with a group of 14 women, and it was just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I can just imagine. I'll have to do that sometime. I'm thinking also, like you said, that people, they're not the only ones who have the non-ordinary experiences.
Right.
And possibly also they realize, oh, wait, that was like what you just experienced, like what you're describing, that's talking to your guides. Oh, well, that happens to me all the time.
Thank you.
They don't realize they already are having those experiences, and they don't realize that the subtlety of their beautiful nature is actually, that's the demonstration of the big things that we speak of.
That's already happening, yes. Because there's no mythology for it in our culture or in our, in our TV or the news or whatever's going on around it. There's none of it. Our 3D experience here right now, the common denominator is about, thinking that we are physical beings having physical experiences with emotions and thoughts, and that's about it.
It's very nihilistic, and that means that really the only way to feel accomplished or to advance or evolve is to get more stuff. If it's all materially oriented, then and then what? Then you have the stuff and then you die.
Right.
So that's really limiting isn't even the best way to describe it. It's dissonant with who we truly are. We're way more spirit, way more non-physical than we are physical.
Yeah, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so when people get together and realize those things about themselves, that's empowering because then they can embrace that part of their nature.
I just felt I felt your heart expand so much as you were reliving that with the 14 women, and it just felt so amazing. And so, what other? You have you've been. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot today. You've been going.
It might be me. It might be my energy.
No. I think I actually there was a lot going on this morning, and it also disturbed my sleep. We actually both talked about that. We had kind of difficult sleep last night, both of us, and so I ground, and I welcome Archangel Gabriel to flow through me.
I'm feeling my feet.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what I was going to say is that. Now I've forgotten.
I'm sorry. Oh, this happens to me all the time. No. By interrupting you, yes.
No, you didn't. I interrupted me.
We were talking about group sessions and then...
Well, let's just move on then.
Move on. Yeah.
Oh, I know Instagram. Are you going live on Instagram so that folks can actually get to know? So how else are you out there? So because you just are so much love. So much love exudes from you. And I actually found a YouTube video of yours before I booked with you. Someone I think they had probably posted their session. So maybe that's why you don't know. It's funny. Drop the
I can hear you.
Yeah. Are you on? So is Instagram Live? Are you doing Instagram Lives or?
No, I should be doing more of that, but
Oh, don't shit all over yourself.
Thank you. I haven't figured out how to create time for it. Like I do sessions 5 times a week, and then aside from that, I just want to like flounce about and be in nature and be with my cat, be with my partner, my roommate, and just not do any of that.
Flouncing is a really good life purpose.
Flounce about, yes.
We all need more flouncing.
Yeah.
But you also have been, I know I saw that you were teaching recently in Los Angeles. And so what are you teaching folks about how to be in contact with their higher self? What kind of work are you doing around that?
Was I teaching? It must have been like a group regression.
Maybe. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was at Den Meditation.
Oh, yeah. So these are the group regressions. Yes,
oh, it's a group regression. Okay, great.
And then I teach a meditation. We've talked about this in another episode.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I work with a dragon council, healing beings that can be of great help and, bumping up your life into more authenticity.
You mean dragons, etheric dragons, right?
Yes.
Yeah, angelic dragons.
Yes.
We talked about that. I remember when I mentioned to you in my session, you're like, I connect with dragons too.
Oh, that was with you. Yes, yes. I'm getting so many people that connect to dragons.
Amazing. I love it. Yeah.
I had a client yesterday, actually, where they came in.
Yeah.
So I teach that meditation as well.
That's amazing. Well, what's really cool? Have you had clients when, there's a dragon around and then you explain to them that dragons are real. They're real, like, spiritual beings.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll be like, what? I had no idea. I just thought that I imagined them all the time.
Right.
And I have a dragon tattoo and I don't even know why. And yeah, let's talk about dragons.
What do you want to know?
Yeah, well, what do you tell us in your words? What are dragons? And, how are they, by the way, a lot of folks, I've been asked also, are dragons like the reptilians? No, they're not. No, they have nothing to do with them. The lizard aspect of it is just sort of coincidental, So yeah, how do you experience dragons?
So my experiencing is I use them in meditation every day, and there's different ones for different qualities. And so I use one particular one for my work. It's the gold dragon. It helps. What is the word? Fortify your psychic body, and it's like a tweak on your energy anatomy. I went to a psychic, and I hadn't told her that I work with dragons, and so she said, "Oh, something's going on. I see these dragon beings," and I was asking her, "How does it work when I work with them? What does it look like to you?" And she said, "Oh, it is like a tweak on your energy system. It makes it run more efficiently."
Yeah.
So my experience of them is more of a feeling. I don't really see them anymore. When I first started studying them, meditating with them, I would see images, but now it's more of a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of feel like they're connected to the angelic realm for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That they work in tandem with them. And they're like, they can be like little, what do you call them, like masters? Yeah. Like for healing, you can either direct them into your body, to heal certain places, or you can just give them free range to do whatever is needed. Mm-hmm. That's how I work with them, and that's what I teach people about. And so, they're actual beings that have been on the planet, I think. And when our planetary existence was in a different vibration, before we were so much in the 3D experience, and they're very benevolent, very helpful.
And I actually teach, when I teach about them, I categorize them as well as like unicorns who were also on the planet before, or unicorns are ascended horses. And so I refer to that category as ultra elementals or ascended animals or ascended, because they have walked the earth physically or even if partially physically, some of them are transdimensional and they can be partially physicalized and partially not, or energy between energy and physical. But the planet, the vibration shifted so that their frequency couldn't be received anymore.
Right.
And
you have all the good words. Yeah, really. Yeah.
Thank you. I have all the good words. What I love about dragons is because having had that experience on the earth, and being also in the higher realms, like the, higher, lighter realms, that they can work with that dense energy. So like you say, healing your physical body, they are capable of running that full spectrum of that energy and occupying it. Right. And they're really great to work in really, really dense energy as well. So if there's been something devastating that's happened and you want to pray over it, and, let's say a war zone or something, dragons can really help to clear up and transmute that energy.
I think you should teach my course.
We should teach together. No, that would be wonderful. We could teach together.
That'd be very nice, yes.
Yeah. Well, I have a studio here now, so you can, a teaching studio here in Los Angeles, in Burbank. I think I mentioned it to you. I would love to go teach with dragons because you have so much experience with it too.
Nice.
So we're all talking about dragons now. Yes, you have a dragon. If you like this conversation, yes, you have at least one dragon. But what also is cool about dragons is that they are, I like you said, there are different qualities of them. The gold one that you work with, is he or she? It exactly. They're really non-genderous usually, although sometimes they'll express a little more divine feminine or divine masculine, just like because they are angelic, so they don't have the need for gender. Physical gender, yes, exactly. But I love I wanted to ask about the gold dragon. Does he embody some Christ consciousness in a way?
I think it's connected to like Archangel Metatron.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, we also connect on Metatron. When I remember in my session, you were like,
"Oh, really?"
Yeah. I mentioned Metatron, or I said something about channeling, and I think I had recently had a channeling session where Metatron came through, and I remember you saying, "How do you experience that being?"
Oh, yes. I remember that conversation.
Or was it on this show even? I don't remember. And I was like,
it must have been on the show.
Pretty direct. And you're like, me too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Lovingly direct, though.
Yes.
Very, very much.
Very matter of fact.
Yes. So that's really cool. So your gold dragon is connected with Metatron energy.
Yeah.
And similarly, I the way that you said that you don't necessarily have a visual of them anymore, visuals and names or something like that, they're just benchmarks that help humans orient to them, to remember how to return to that energy, I think.
Yes, like an identifiable marker.
Yeah, we're translating their energy.
Right.
And we're, being physical, we look at things, and, and so visual is how we map things, and also the names, which is totally human. And so I have my two primary dragons. One of them has actually been with me since I was a kid. And what was interesting was when I met him, he has more of a masculine energy. When I met him, and I should say, his energy feels a lot like Sandalphon, by the way. So that's kind of cool. What? Sandalphon, Archangel Sandalphon.
I've never heard that name.
Oh, you would love Sandalphon so much. Sandalphon is actually considered like the brother archangel to Metatron.
Oh.
You know how Metatron is supposed to have also walked the earth and been the prophet Elijah? Is that right? No, the prophet Enoch.
I don't know any. Oh, Enoch, I know, yeah.
The prophet Enoch. Sandalphon was considered to be the prophet Elijah. Okay. And I'm teaching a whole course right now on archangels and the universal laws. But Sandalphon is very gentle, but also very distinctive and really. His energy reminds me of a gigantic tree that is in the earth and also stretching to the heavens, and so very gentle, but very. Also powerful. He's the archangel who we know to kind of oversee prayer as well as song and music, and so like vibration. And in the class that I taught, I understood him to actually kind of oversee, like Metatron is considered to be related to the Merkaba energy. Mm-hmm. So is Sandalphon, and I think that's why this is what we pick up about them. Sandalphon, but like in a slightly different aspect of it. The prophet Elijah, was taken up into a chariot of fire, which really sounds like the Merkaba, the Merkaba energy. Right. And so I think that's why when Elijah ascended in that way, or when he was experienced as such, then that's when they became aware of that energy that we now call Sandalphon. Oh. So
never knew.
I'm on a thing. So my dragon, his energy feels a lot like Sandalphon, and I'm actually understanding that maybe that is his deal. So when I first met him, as in the last 5 years or something like that, and I was connecting with him for a while and got a name for him and everything, and then he reminded, and his energy is very gentle and almost like shy, not in a frightened way at all, but like just so gentle and
hangs
very
back a bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's there, and he's not in your face, and he's just there holding beautiful space for me, but at the same time, like, can really transmute energy. And then he reminded me after connecting with him for a few months of a recurring nightmare that I had as a kid. And that it was him. The dream was a dragon who was really short and looked like a cartoon peeking around a corner, like giggling at me. And because I was like conditioned by Disney and all other kinds of cartoons that dragons are scary.
Bad and fearful, right.
Yeah, and he was like, that was me, and his energy was still very similar, very gentle, and like trying to meet me where I am.
Right.
And and then a few months later I met another, and so he really has a lot of earth qualities and then some water qualities as well. And my moon, my astrological moon, is Capricorn. So I think that's part of the reason why that's part of how he actually shows up in my experience. So that's one of my dragons. And I actually did give him a name that helps me. But along the lines, that's how I experience a lot of elementals too, is I don't necessarily get a visual of them. It's a profound feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Same for me. Yeah. I'm still sort of trying to navigate that. I do feel these dragons when I work with them, when I focus in on them, but I'm not always aware if they're around me when I'm just doing my work. I'm just more like focused in, when I'm working with somebody else, what's going on for them.
Yes, absolutely. That's a lot of time how it is in sessions for me too. Sometimes it's what I call like intuitive. So the information is just coming down through the portals of the higher chakras. And then sometimes I actually experience a specific guide, whether it's a former human or, and I think that is there so that they can form that relationship themselves and know that they can continue to speak with that particular being. So do you have clients who have already, like I said, who are like, wait, dragons are real? Like, do you remember an experience like that?
Well, in the meditations that I teach, sometimes it is sort of a hurdle that conditioning is so strong.
Yeah.
Like dragons, oh my God. And then especially when you work with the black dragon, there's a black dragon, which is super gentle. And it is the one
divine feminine. Black is divine feminine.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, generally speaking. Well, think of the yin yang. White is the yin and black is the yang. And yin is more like masculine and yang is more feminine. Did I say it right? No, yin is more feminine, yang is more masculine.
Oh, okay.
But the earth, the earth energy, Gaia energy is like black or green or blue or anything like that. But that black is feminine. It holds everything. It's
very nurturing.
Fertile.
It's like the womb.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So especially when I call on the black dragon, people go like, oh, what is that? Is that evil? No, it's very, very gentle, very soothing. It's one of my favorite dragons to work with, and it's actually the dragon that helps with ego death and transformation. And it's very, very gentle, just holding space. It's like a womb. It's like
mother. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And just think about that. If we look at our recent history of conditioning and how we got quite imbalanced in having too much masculine. I don't want to say divine masculine, but patriarchy. No. Yeah, patriarchy and aggression and assertiveness to the point of flaw. Yeah. And so then we are conditioned to be afraid of something that would be representative of the profoundly passive, like the color black.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. There's a fear and a judgment and conditioning around that for sure. I've experienced it in my own life. Yeah.
Wow. And we know that the color black is grounding. Do you feel yourself wearing black sometimes when you need to kind of, or maybe you haven't noticed?
No, I don't. No. It's just like, what do I feel like? What colors? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know the purpose of it.
Well, today
is it like that for you?
Yeah. I mean, if I pay attention to it, usually it's interesting. I'll kind of clear my mind and I'll do it for my clients. When I'm going to go and before the session, I'll say, I'll just feel into the colors that would best serve them. And then when I show up, it turns out, I wore a gold sweater and they need some solar plexus healing. So, and things like that have happened a lot.
That makes total sense. I haven't made that connection at all.
Yeah. Or if it's just for myself, like today, I really did need some grounding, but then I spruced it up with this guy to remind me that I'm also very connected.
To weigh you down.
Yeah. And you're wearing a grounding color too, the red and black.
And
we both slept poorly.
This one.
Ooh, what is that?
Hematite for grounding.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So, so then you teach dragon meditations is what you're saying. Uh-huh. Yeah. And how long have you been working with dragons?
Since 1997.
So you said you've been on the path about since 99. That's when you went through healing. But 97, you connected with
Yes,
dragons.
That was an inaccurate number. I had my spiritual awakening. It's a beautiful word for a very nightmarish period in my life.
That's a euphemism.
Yes.
For going through hell for a little while.
People think like rainbows and unicorns. And suddenly you realize, your truth. No, it was just harrowing nightmare. And so when I had just come out the the acuteness of it, I found somebody. I knew at the time that I didn't want to go like into psychiatry and medication, all that stuff, even though I was feeling very, very gnarly. But I found lots of holistic healers, and one of them was a woman who, as a child, was visited by Tibetan monks in spirit, and they taught her about the dragons. And so, yeah, that's how she, and she just ran with it, and she's very inquisitive, and I would be sitting with her, and she'd tell these anecdotes of things that she's done. It just crazy stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Was your spiritual awakening, as we call it, was it maybe Kundalini kind of, where you have that, profound opening of all of your energy centers at one time? Or?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Were you suddenly like open to other realms and you didn't know what to do with it?
Because what I learned later is that I had shut down my circuitry to protect myself from going insane, being in this world. Yeah. And so that all came online all at once when I was 26.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Right.
I just thought, I can't live like this. There was so much going on, and it knocked me out of my body. And so since then, I've been reincarnating. Into the physical realm, like layer by layer. First, the basic energetic part of me, and then the feelings was a very hard one on a long journey, and then more subtle parts of myself. And I'm still doing that. And this is what I do now for others as well. I help them to embrace parts of themselves because I've walked that journey to an extent, and so I carry medicine now to help other people do the same thing. And I want them to do that for others in their own way because. We all do this in a very unique way, and the information that we pick up is valuable because it's our own healing tone that we can broadcast and inspire other people to do the same thing.
I think that's fascinating the way you just explained that you have been reincarnating in this life for about 20 years.
Yeah, I was
layer by
checked out.
layer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I have another friend who experienced an opening, her spiritual opening in that way too. Essentially, she says like her third eye popped wide open, but she was still really needing to work on root chakra.
Right.
And I'm not telling her story out of class. She's actually talked about it on my show and speaks about it. And so since she was still in her base foundation or her base vibration, fearful.
She would see
the fearful things. Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. Those layers of the non-physical.
Right.
And like you, she was like, properly could have been checked in, clinically speaking.
Right.
That was where she was, but she just did everything she could to not leave her family at home while she went and took care of it that way. So she had spiritual emergency. And by the way, do you know that there's a spiritual emergency hotline that people can call?
No, and I was just going to say, because this is so important for people to know, because from our society, you wouldn't know these things. You would think, I'm just going crazy, or people would think you're going crazy, so we're going to lock you up and shoot you full of meds. But I didn't know that. What is it, and where can people reach it?
I don't know. You'd have to Google it, but it's very Googleable. I have Googled it before. Just spiritual emergency hotline. Oh, Tony, maybe he can look it up. Thanks. And Tony, we have Tony Sweet, by the way, producing the show today. Hello. And so you can just find it, and that's really helpful because, I actually, one time when I was coming home from doing the show, and I was getting gas, and there was a man who was approaching me, and he was, apparently it was clear that he was like a homeless person by, being disheveled and everything. And he was approaching me, but I could tell, I could feel, he has something to tell you. And I could feel it was like, he has a message or something. And he wasn't threatening. I didn't feel threat from him at all. I did actually, as I had the door open and I put this arm in front of me just so I didn't connect to his energy too much, And I just like stopped and he paused and he was kind of mumbling, he was nonsensically mumbling. But then he did say, and your brother David wants to tell you he's okay.
Wow.
This is a person who is actually like a stepbrother to me who passed away just about 2 years prior to that. Very young. He was only about 50 years old. And
right.
He had, unfortunately, he had like a brain cancer. And I saw him right before he passed, and I hadn't seen him for 20 years prior to that. So he gave me an accurate reading.
Right.
And I said, what was that? Who? And he said, your brother David. He says he's okay. And then he goes, and he also wants you to know about the government and the red lighter. And so then he got into that. He had a red lighter in his hand. So he had a moment of something that was helpful. He was able to get through, but then, got into the realms of confusion again.
Right.
those things can be right next to one another because they're right next to one another in our own energy.
Right.
Right.
And I think it's also depending on how you've been supported growing up and your support that you get when you are in that place of going through that spiritual awakening.
What would your advice be to folks who are approaching spiritual awakening? If they're in, there are a lot of people who find this show because they're at some part of that opening, that awakening.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes we want to hasten it. We want to rush it.
Right.
And that can actually make us, not that you did that, but that can thrust us into an experience that can be uncomfortable. So what is, do you have advice for people who are maybe even wanting to have a spiritual awakening of some kind and feel like they haven't yet?
I don't know, like the ones that I've been talking about, there are more things that have been scripted into our lives and should they kind of overcome us or they kind of happen. But yeah, if you wanted to have a spiritual awakening, I would, let's see, I would find ways where you can pivot your focus back to yourself. So if you've been listening to, who you should be in terms of your physical expression, your body, your gender, your sexuality, your race, your whatever part
Any label
that you've been feeding into as your identity, to start to realize that they are just that, they're labels, and to realize that you have been subscribing to them and maybe giving up on yourself because you perceive that your value is out there. It's like belonging to a label or being seen as full or acceptable, to be acceptable by other people.
Right.
So to start noticing that if that's what you've been doing, because when you bring awareness to that, then you can have a choice. It's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is how it makes me feel. And so when I don't have the right body, like I'm not saying there is a right body, but in our society, there's definitely standards of beauty. And then I'm being unkind to myself. Right. Is this really what's going to nurture me into my authenticity? I don't think so. So just start to become aware of where you're doing that, and then try to pivot that focus back to yourself and say, well, what do I want? How do I want to express? Okay, I'm in this job to get this acclaim or to be seen as acceptable or to get, acknowledgement of some kind. What can I do now for myself to acknowledge myself? And so I like to talk about the spiritual practice of enjoying joy for fuck's sake. Yeah. And I call it joy for fuck's sake because to make it very clear that it's not the joy that you might have as somebody looks at you and says, oh, you're beautiful, or you're good enough, or whatever kind of acknowledgement you get.
You need an outcome. You do it without any attachment, without needing an outcome.
Yes. So to just do it, it's just so where all of your experience informs you that this is just amazing. Like as kids, when we would be in a swing set or just drive down a steep hill on your bike and the wind's in your face. So all of your experience, that this is joyful. Is there any reasoning needed, or is there any work required in order to get something or to get acknowledgement? No, it's just there right now. So to start listening to those parts of yourself. I think joy is very, very important because it's an easy way into it. And so then when your heart tells you what is joyful, something trivial, or maybe you like for me, I love Earl Grey tea. So I would take myself to the Chado tea shop in Pasadena. Little plug here, I didn't mean to.
That's all right. We like them.
But they have tons of teas, and just to go there and smell all the different teas. Or I like to go for a drive through the mountains. Not to go anywhere, just to be with the mountains, get out of my car or go to nature, sit in your backyard, just take in the sun, just simple things. When you start with that, you're letting your heart know that you're present for it. Yes. And it will inform your life with more information. Both joyful, but also it will tell you about the places that are not serving you. So relationships or jobs, and it's your job to heed those feelings. And so this is a very gentle spiritual awakening. So it's a journey of embracing who you are, trusting your own experience versus the voices of the world, and that's what I see as that's what's been called creating havoc in our world. That we've been doing that,
placing that identity outside of ourselves.
Right.
And that's the reason that wreaks that havoc is because it's not true. Your identity is within you, and that's
exactly. It's not an expression of of you, it's not an expression of source, creator, God doing you as a human being. It is you as an expression of what the world dictates.
It's already been created, which basically, if it's already been created, it's on its way to dying.
And
so it's identity to a death process rather than a life process.
Exactly, and it's very, very the bandwidth is very, very limited because
Yes.
it does not acknowledge these experiences that we've been that you talk about in your show. You know, and this is who we are. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and so all these levels of existence, they're part of us. We're constantly processing information from different lifetimes, making us into the person that we are today.
The different experiences you described of joy for fuck's sake. Often it's come across to me to say it in the words of having self-romance. And that could even be buying
I
yourself
like that too.
flowers or,
Yeah.
you know, taking a bath or... And if you think about it, if we do it for an outcome, then that's linear. Literally, I'm going to do this for that, and that's not present. But
Right.
if we do it just for
I love that because
now,
it is like
it's
taking yourself on a
expansive.
date. Yeah.
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 And I think we need to do that every day. Well, just think about it. If you're in a partnership, you need to nurture that partnership. If you're in a marriage, then you have to spend time developing that marriage and that relationship and invest in the other person as well.
Right.
We need to invest in ourselves, the
Right.
relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
that's right.
Sometimes during sessions, it becomes very, very literal where a person's disowned selves will show up and say, I'm here. You know, just embrace me, hug me. I'm here. I'm here to inform your life. It's, you know, it's inner child healing, but this happens during sessions as well where we don't go into past lives. It's just like those parts of themselves show up and to be remembered, to be reintegrated into the whole.
And even inner mother and inner father.
Oh, that happens as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So that needs to be accessed in order to do
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And so with QHHT, there is the experiencing past lives or even parallel and future lives. Or, I know the one that I had, it seemed like I was in Lemuria or something, which it didn't feel like past. It just felt like being, you know, I mean, it really did feel that way. And so that can be, tell folks, and I actually do a lot of, when I need to, a few times, probably a year, I will do a regression of some kind just in myself. It's something you can do on your own. And I just set the intention to see some sort of life that will help to inform me.
You, right.
Yeah, about whatever I need at that time. And it's really helpful to get that objective experience yet connect to it and the feeling state. So tell people how that kind of work, like what is the power of that? How would you describe that?
So I would describe it as, well, there are no past lives. So that's just the name
Everything's
that we
happening.
have. Yeah. So what we've gathered so far is that there's no time outside of the physical 3D experience. So how I sort of, the model that I use for this work is that our soul as a more or less individuated part of source, of creator, of God, decides to encounter itself in these different experiences, to learn like, who am I in these experiences? And so it decides to split off into different lifetimes all at once. They're all happening now. So my human mind, this is where it goes like, okay, you're just fucking with me. But
we don't have to pay attention to it all the time because it gets like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we do during these processes, we're checking into different resources that our soul is having somewhere else, like a different expression of it, and to connect with the resources that are there. Maybe there's an enhanced sense of empowerment, or there are patterns of loneliness that need to be dealt with or brought up in the self right now to be released. It can be for different reasons, but that's what I think we're doing. We're tapping into different resources of our soul in this work. And so when I say there's no past lives, because it's all happening right now, so yes, past lives, parallel lives, future lives, lives on different planets, as aliens, what people call aliens. That's all places where we can go. We exist on many, many different dimensions.
Right, absolutely. And it seems to me in the process, I remember we went to the other life and then we went to the subconscious, which is really just the hub of all of that's going on.
Yes.
The higher self. It's all going on. And so it's like we broke through the linear construct or the confinement of this life by experiencing another life, and then we were able to bust in. We went into the life between life as well before I actually made this life.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of stayed in that place where the hub is of all of it.
The hub, the big head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, oh my gosh, I think we are out of time. I feel like we got 1 minute. All right then. Wow. We should do sometimes. We should
Talk about
just
this
get
forever.
yeah. We could do it without microphones in front of us. So tell folks how they can get in touch with you and anything else that you would like to share as we end of this broadcast today.
All right. So if you would like to do a regression or experience a group regression, you can contact me. And the best way to contact me is on Instagram. It's my first name. It's Jeroen. And then my affirmation is love. That's how you can find me on Instagram. That's the best way to contact me. I do group regressions regularly at Liberate Hollywood every third Thursday of the month from 7 to 8. And then at the Den Meditation, both in Studio City and La Brea. The very next one is coming up on March 8th.
Cool.
I think it's a Friday, but I'm doing them like every 2 months.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't realize you were doing those regularly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are there, and online, you have your website, but you're not offering any online or remote services at this time?
Not at this time. No.
Okay, great. No, it's wonderful
all
to be
done in person.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll have to do more things in person too. So those of you who are in Los Angeles or Southern California, even if you are a 3-hour drive, it is really worth it to come and find Jeroen. And also, I really want to invite you to co-teach or something like that at my new teaching studio.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. All right, great. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode. Just a reminder, my website is triciacarrcharm.com and check out the 2019 Intuitive Intensive. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.